Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. As ever, I'm joined by my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa have just drawn 1-1 away at Stamford Bridge. A game played around this time last year as well, where Villa didn't walk away with their heads held high, but I feel like they really can today, Dan. First of all, how are you doing?
Mate, I get better and better every time we talk. It seems like the circumstances in which we speak just get better and better every time. I tweeted about it. Just so refreshing, isn't it? Like to look at this game from the surface level. Just so refreshing to watch Villa go to a place like Stamford Bridge and not have to watch it from behind the sofa, peering through your
Yeah.
fingers. Sort of saying, "Oh, if we concede less than three, I'll be happy." It's so nice to go to these stages, compete against the likes of Chelsea and look so comfortable and look so at home and just really be able to enjoy the game, which I think was probably the best thing about it for me is that I was just able to. I was really relaxed during the whole game, and that's such a refreshing feeling.
I mean, for you to be relaxed throughout the whole game shocks me because, certainly towards the end when that Chilwell shot went wide,
But yeah,
I
that
had the heart, my heart in my mouth.
nah,
But
Don Emmy,
he had that
it
covered,
keeps
man,
me
we
safe.
know.
He keeps me safe.
But do you know what, Dan? Obviously before this, Mendy, there's been a lot of talk about Mendy, and I want to talk about Mendy as well because he has been a very important signing. And I think we mentioned it in the preview as well for Chelsea. What he's done in such a short space of time is great. It's always going to look amazing, though, considering who he followed in from. Obviously, Kepa didn't have a brilliant time at Chelsea. Still there, received a Budweiser from Messi as well. And
We were very
he
happy about it, didn't he?
he did, yeah. Like he actually did. Which fair play to that. That's brilliant. But today we saw two of the best keepers compete head to head down in the league. Mendy's kept 6 clean sheets, Emmy's kept 8. So you just knew that there was going to be goals in this game. Albeit I probably expected more on the whole. Speaking about the goal first down, because I thought Villa really did look. We looked comfortable in the first 20 minutes, and I think after that as soon as the goal came, I think it kind of knocked the stuffing out us a little bit. We didn't necessarily know what to do. We didn't have as much of the ball, but we'll get onto that a bit later. Villa were very narrow, I feel, throughout the whole evening. And
Mm,
this is, of
hmm.
course, what caused the issue for the goal. Now, it's easy to point fingers at Bertrand because he should have been tracking his man, which, of course, he should have. Again, it doesn't help how narrow Villa were playing. Cash, on more than one occasion, spoke to Bertrand about telling him, look, you need to track back. I'm by no means defending Bertrand, but he occupies in this space on the wings where he's more of an inside forward because of how we play with these inverted wingers. He's not going to be, taking the ball to the byline, beating the fullback, putting a cross into the box. He's going to be drifting inside. He's going to be putting that cross to the far post. Similar to what we saw in other games, like against the Baggies for Ramos' goal. Obviously, as I say, I can't excuse the fact he didn't track back, but he kind of operates in a position where I think if you look at the great sides that play with forwards as opposed to wingers, and to use Liverpool as a reference point, I don't think Mo Salah tracks that ball back. And again, it doesn't necessarily make it right, but I think the whole Villa defense just generally struggled with that. Obviously, Olivier Giroud is a man who loves to score against Aston Villa, and I've got no slander for Giroud, man. He's so underappreciated. France's all-time top goal scorer.
Yep.
Scored 10 in 10 against Villa, which is just crazy. So you knew he was going to back today. And of course, as that ball goes out to Chilwell, the defense sinks, and that afforded Giroud about 10 yards of space to run onto that cross from Chilwell. A frustrating one to concede, but I think as well, Dan, not only in isolation of this game, but if you look at all of the games which Villa have lost or have perhaps struggled, teams have got the better of that right hand side constantly.
Yep.
And last season it was always the left, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting to see sort of how that's fluctuated, and I think that we in the you're very right in saying that. I think early on we contested the game really well, and it looked really even. The opening stages, there wasn't too much in it. It was a little bit cagey, but early on, it was down that right hand side. It was especially Ben Chilwell was having a lot of luck down there, and there's just so much fluidity to that Chelsea team. The way that there's so many different willing runners, so many different types of runs that they can make. Both. It was really interesting, I thought, and I want to pick him up on this because I thought he was excellent. The role that Callum Hudson-Odoi played, he was sort of sitting a little bit deeper, playing a bit of an architect, and some of his long range passing, and he showed his versatility in that regard. That was really nice, and just this overall fluidity of the Chelsea front line, and with Mount in behind, did cause us a few problems. And Mount was out on that left hand side, Chilwell and Pulisic, and that's a lot for Matty Cash to deal with, but a lot for Traore too. And it's interesting that you picked up on the fact that we were too narrow, because I'd noted that as well. And I suppose that's to try and prevent Giroud getting on the score sheet. I guess, but that obviously didn't work. But no, to be honest with you, mate, Matty Cash is still a new signing. I saw someone tweet today that it feels like he's been here for ages, and it does, doesn't it? Like, we forget that he's still new, and I think teams will look at that as, he's the one with the least experience playing in the Premier League in that back line, and that's probably with Traore, who's not a willinger runner as say Trezeguet, that's where you're going to get a lot of luck. But I didn't think it was overwhelming. I thought that's probably where Chelsea get the best of us, but Chelsea have such a depth of squad and such ability in that team where they'll find weaknesses anywhere. And I think today it just so happened that they managed to find that luck down their left, our right. But I don't think it was an overwhelming concern, to be honest with you. It's where they had the most of their luck. But I mean, considering what we limited them to really during the game, I don't think it's a massive cause for concern. And you're right in talking about Traore. I thought he was really scapegoated for that goal. I saw some people saying, he needed to come off. It was that bad, and it's like, sort of, that's not his role. We've signed him with that in mind. He's not a Trezeguet. Yes, obviously, I'm not, as you're saying, I'm not saying that he needs to completely ignore his runner, but he's best deployed elsewhere. And we do, if you wanted that lad that's going to cover every blade of grass on the right wing, it's Trezeguet, you call in for that. But I thought Bertrand played his role brilliantly today.
Yeah, and I mean, that kind of leads on to a point that we were just speaking off air about, Dan, really, is just how I think at the moment, just everything with obviously how brilliant the season's gone, and we're certainly guilty of it at times as well. We're quite reactionary to a lot of things. Now, Villa were by no means the better side today. I think that has to be said. Chelsea, of course, with the players that they have at their disposal, the fact that they can bring on a Werner and a Havertz is just a joke. Arguments for them to start, of course, but the fact that they can bring them on when they're chasing a game and they see them as people who can influence the game in that aspect, that's crazy. But Chelsea, for me, I think they created plenty of chances in the game. And there was that period after Villa conceded the goal where I think, as I say, we were kind of shell-shocked. We didn't really know what to do. This season, we've not managed to get any points when we've gone from behind. We managed to buck that trend and change that tonight. This is our first point we've earned after coming from behind, which is really important because, as I said literally just then, I don't think Villa were the better side. I think we certainly worked hard and we were very good value for the point. But Chelsea, of course, were always going to be favourites in this game. Anyone with their hyperbolic tweets before the game saying that Villa were going to steamroll Chelsea and come to the capital and charge for Europe and all that, I just think we need to calm down a little bit sometimes, guys. I just do. I think Villa now, I feel much more confident in Villa, certainly, going into games, approaching games. I don't have this dreaded, it's match day feel. But I've not at all this season gone into a game and expected us to bulldoze an opponent, not even against West Brom, not even against Burnley. So to kind of have that, like, that arrogance maybe about a result against Chelsea was maybe a bit too opportunistic from some fans. But as I say, I thought Chelsea were the better side, but Villa certainly made up for it, especially in the second half. I think as soon as we got the goal down, it just kind of brought everyone to life again. And I don't think that there wasn't a blade of grass that John McGinn didn't touch in this game. The man was everywhere, Dan.
Well, he was outstanding today, mate. He really was. It was brilliant to see him really back at his best, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
I think ultimately that's what we got today was the John McGinn of old. I was really worried going into the game that it'd come a day too soon for the Villa this fixture. I mean, I put up a tweet from an account, and I feel people took it completely the wrong way. And I was saying that obviously, I made the point saying that we hadn't been helped by the Premier League because the reason why I thought we went behind and the reason why we went in trailing at half time is just because we tired.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a matter of intensity. I think early first 20 minutes we matched them perfectly, but as that game went on, we really started to wear a little bit, and you could see it was getting a little bit. The legs were a bit heavier for the Villa players as the half went on. And I know that Chelsea actually played later than Villa did, but you can't compare those two situations. We can make realistically 2 or 3 changes to our first team without massively jeopardizing the squad. I mean,
Yeah.
what you want to rotate and start like Taylor, Elmo, Horahan, Keenan away at Stamford Bridge? We don't have that luxury. I mean, Chelsea's bench today, and I tweeted this today. It was Kovacic, Gilmore, Havertz, Kepa, Abraham, Werner, Thiago Silva, Tomori, and Emerson, which is nuts.
I mean, they all walk on the Villa side.
Well, exactly that, mate. That was going to be I was going to tweet that off the account, but I don't want to especially as we were looking to make rotations. Any one of those players would have played for Villa tonight. Any one of those players, that 9 players would give this Villa side a game. Let's be honest. Yeah. It's an all-star, and I think for John McGinn to keep going like he did and just put up that amount of work and really cover the ground that a lot of other Villa players didn't really look like they were capable of doing tonight was testament to him. And we've been, you and I on this podcast, Dan, have talked a few times about how it's been a long time since we saw the real John McGinn. It's been a long time since I felt we watched the game and I was like, yes, that was him at his very best. But tonight we got that. I mean, there are reams and reams of stats of his performance coming out of the accounts, and I'm just really grateful that he's had this game. And he looked like he could have played tomorrow. His fitness levels were just outstanding. He epitomised all that was good about Villa. And yeah, I honestly couldn't be happier for him, because I think of anyone in this Villa team, he's the one that deserved it. But there are a few other good performances as well out there. I thought, considering Ezri stepped back into the team, I thought he was really good today.
Yeah, he made a really big clearance off the line for that disallowed goal, didn't he?
Yeah, and there were some big blocks and challenges from him towards the end, which I really like to see. Obviously, Anwar's had another great game. I felt that we were lacking in a few areas in the first half, and I think we changed things a little bit more. Grealish was getting into those areas where he can impact things. I felt we really struggled to penetrate Jorginho and Kante in the first half. Yeah. I thought once they got that goal, got control of the game, we really struggled to break through that midfield. But we made the changes, and as you said, mate, to find that fight to come back from a position where we were training for the first time this season, despite all of our fitness problems, was really inspiring, to be honest with you, mate.
It was, and I think as well the way we dealt with the substitutions as well. Obviously, as I alluded to earlier, the fact that they brought on Havertz and Werner, it changed the dynamic of the Chelsea team, and arguably not for the better, because they obviously didn't end up scoring a goal. But it's one thing dealing with a target man who is relatively mobile in Olivier Giroud, very much a box player who is constantly looking for that ball from Chilwell. I mean, they showed it on the cameras before the game. They had the camera in the tunnel. Chilwell and Giroud were talking at length about where he wants the ball, how he wants it, when he wants it played. Any point in the box, if the ball's coming to that man's head, it's more than likely going to end up in the onion bag. To then have Werner, who is generally an off-the-shoulder striker, and I feel like a lot of people who maybe didn't see, the real Timo Werner of his RB Leipzig days have this kind of warped view of what Werner is because of how Lampard plays him and how he's been played out of position. He's often played on the left, and he's been very unlucky in a lot of situations. He's probably missed 2 or 3 sitters, which are, to be fair, inexcusable. But there's no doubt in my mind that Timo Werner is one of the best strikers in Europe, if not the world. when he's on his form. Obviously, you don't pay 58 million for a player like that who is as prolific as that for, as I say, for RB Leipzig, and not not expect goals. But obviously, the defense dealt with that really well. It didn't cause too many troubles. Havertz looked a bit better on the ball, I think. If I'm looking at a Chelsea point of view as well, again, another player who, if you haven't watched much of him in the Bundesliga for, oh my God, my mind's gone blank, Leverkusen. If you've not seen him play, again, it's easy to see the 30-yard pass that he made as soon as he came on against Brighton that went out in the stands, that of course did the rounds on Twitter, and go, oh, well, he's going to be awful. Can't believe they've paid 80 million for him. I mean, if I was Ezri Konsa and Courtney Horse in that back four, I'd have been absolutely dreading the thought of a 15-minute run around from Timo Werner, because he is relentless. But I think Villa just dealt with it really well. As I said to you off air, Dan, as well, I don't think Villa weren't. There's no sort of standout performer for me other than John McGinn, who, as I say, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. For me, it was about the collective, and we really showed what we were about as a team. We dug in deep. I mean, McGinn had that wonderful shot that struck the crossbar, which, half an inch,
so unlucky,
an inch further back, and that goes in, I think. But he was absolutely amazing. Emmy, some big saves as well. A very tidy shot from Callum Hudson-Odoi around the 70-minute mark, which Emmy just made look routine. Which a lot of his saves he does. Like he's actually quite small. He's about 6 foot, which for a goalkeeper is of course not very tall at all. But he wins every single cross he goes for. He's assured, and as I say, he makes the most difficult of saves look so routine. But Dan, a player who we've spoke about a few times on the podcast when he's made these little glimmers of appearances, Jacob Ramsey, with his first touch, is within inches of scoring to put Villa ahead. I thought it was a really bold decision to put Jacob on. I saw Dom tweet earlier before the game saying that he'd like to see some Jacob and Jack link-up play later on in the game, have him run about, which, to be fair, for all of Dom's sort of controversial opinions, I found myself agreeing with that one. He can cause teams issues. He's a relatively unknown quantity, and I mean, with your first 2 touches, to receive the ball and to get a shot off just outside the box, to have that within you, I just thought that was amazing, Dan.
Yeah, I think with JJ, I mean, I've been slightly more hesitant on him than perhaps other Villa fans have, and that's not because I doubt his talents, just because I think with our lack of squad depth, I think we sort of give the impression that we're pinning hopes on him.
Yeah.
And when Ross Barkley got injured, I saw a lot of people calling for JJ. He got that start against Wolves, but in other games, people were asking why he wasn't starting. And I don't think that's a healthy environment in which to introduce a young player, whereby they feel they have to step into the fore and perform. I think when you're giving young players, the license to go out there and express themselves and play free of pressure, that's when you necessarily get the results. And I think the more that you put on their shoulders, and the more that you reference, as you say, when I think when we looked at against Burnley is a good example. I saw a lot of people saying, why wasn't JJ trialed? Why wasn't he put out there? And it's like, you don't really want to be sending Jacob Ramsey on there with the message, go and win your team the game, get us to 3 points. You want to be sending him out there going, no pressure, go out, enjoy yourself, enjoy the occasion, settle in, don't worry too much. And that's the environment in which we need to put him in. And it was a brave decision to put him in. I think it was one made out of sort of fitness reasons, as opposed to, I think by that point, there weren't many thoughts in the Villa camp that we needed to make a substitute that would win us the game. But JJ very nearly did that. And what a moment that would have been. But you're right in saying that I don't think there were too many standout performances. I thought we did a really good job in midfield, actually, of starting to come back. And because with how tired we looked in the first half, I thought we were just going to see more of the same in the second half. The way that, I mean, it's quite masterful, really. I know a lot of fans won't see it this way, but the way that Kante and Jorginho get away with tactical fouls is mental.
Yeah.
Absolutely mental. I've never seen anything like it, mate. It reminds me, I think Kante did it as well because he's such a likable character that people don't really penalise him for that. And it reminds me a lot of David Silva. And it's not something that many people remember of David Silva, actually. But David Silva made a lot of fouls, but because everyone likes him and he's just a really nice guy, he never really got punished for it. And I felt that was the same with Kante and Jorginho tonight, that they really got into Villa players at times. But we really stood up well to that physicality, dealt with it well, managed to get our foot in the ball, and we created a really nice goal. And that was really the icing on the cake. I mean, Anwar, what can we say, mate? It's about time we touched on this man. The first Villa player to score in 3 successive Premier League appearances since Tom Cleverley in May 2015, where he went on that run where he was probably the best player the world has ever seen.
Wow.
For absolute, dude, it was crazy. It's just
That
one
was mental.
like this month of May where all Tom Cleverley could do was score goals. Anwar matches that record, 5 and 5 for him. Just really pleased that he got that moment and is now producing. And what's refreshing is that I'm finding, and you tweeted this, mate, and it's true in that he's scoring different types of goals now. He's just getting himself in the right positions. And that's an intelligence play. That's not a skill play. It's just, you watch that goal, he drifts in behind Kante, comes onto the ball at just the right time, is in acres of space. And ultimately, that speaks to a player's intelligence, not their skill levels. And that's a side to Anwar that I didn't think was there.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing that I took from the goal, and pretty much all of Villa's goals this season, is of course, I mention it every podcast, we play with inverted wingers. You're gonna Ollie is so unlucky not to have scored more goals. Of course, he's had 2 ruled out from VAR. He hit the post twice the other day on Boxing Day against Palace. Very unlucky. He scored 6 goals already. But with the inverted wingers, there is such an emphasis on shifting the play that Ollie, his role in the team is essentially as a decoy. The ball is always going to go to the back post, whether that's to Bertrand or to El Ghazi, regardless of, obviously depending on who's on which wing. That's always going to be the out ball. And I wonder how long it'll take teams to kind of find that out. But as for now, it's working really well. Anwar just knows. And of course, it's, as you say, it's an intelligence thing, but it's definitely a thing that's been coached into them. If Bertrand's coming in, arrive at that back post, because you're gonna get a chance to score a goal. And of course, he was there. He came up, nutmegged Mendy, which again, one of the best keepers in the league. So he'll absolutely take that. And I think as long as Villa keep doing that, the goals will come. It's a space in which you have to be clinical, and I think we've seen when El Ghazi hasn't been in this kind of green patch of form, he picks the ball up, he runs at defenders, he loses the ball. He picks the ball up, drops the shoulder, gets a shot off. It's in Rose of the Holte. He has very little margin for error in the positions that he's been told to occupy himself in. Being at the back post, and apart from the penalty, and of course the wonderful strike against Crystal Palace, that's where his goals have come from. So it's a testament to Dean. It's a testament to the players. It's a testament to Anwar. I just hope that similar to the year that we didn't get promoted under Bruce, that it just doesn't get found out, because we were very one-dimensional that season with Snodgrass kind of cutting it back to Graben, and teams found that out pretty quickly. But I think, saying that, there have been a variety of goals, so it's not, we don't solely rely our hopes on scoring these goals at the back post, but I think teams will certainly become wise to it as the next few match weeks pass by. But no, on that, absolutely delighted for Anwar. I mean, everyone who listens to the podcast knows our feelings about Anwar El Ghazi. We love the man. And Dan, if you thought that I could go a podcast without bringing up XG, you were wrong, because I mean, the XG
I don't
philosophy.
think that, don't worry.
He came up. I found this really interesting. I think the XG definitely reads how I've seen the game, and how I've explained that Chelsea have certainly been the better side, as their XG is 1.24 compared to Villa's 1.08. So this is only the second time in the Premier League this season that we've actually amassed an XG total less than our opponents. So that's really important that we were actually able to hold on, Dan.
Yeah.
So we've scored, we've almost beat the XG because we've got our goal, albeit it's 1.08, so we were expected a goal anyway. But it shows that the back four is doing the work that it should be, which of course we know it's reliable. We know that Emmy's going to more often than not keep a clean sheet, make some big saves. Courtney stepped up; he's done really well. Esri, obviously, after being ill, played 45 minutes, played 90 minutes, looked really assured at the back as well. And just while we're talking on the defense, again, just to bring it back to a point I made earlier in the podcast, Dan, about how we're quite reactionary. Mings is, of course, prone to making an error in a game. And he's not the only player who is. It's just in the position he plays, he gets punished for it the most. He's the defender. It's his job to keep the ball out of the back of the net. That is his thing. The sending off, looking back, is totally ridiculous. I've looked at the just before, and it's cut at a very significant time on Match of the Day and all the other highlights. Wilf punches Ty in the chest before he goes and fouls McGinn, which is then where we see the stamp from Mings, which again, I can't excuse the stamp. But he's provoked him. He's done that, right? And that's what Wilfried Zaha is like at the end of the day. We should know this by now, to be fair. But to see Villa fans after the Crystal Palace game tweeting House and Concert, it's the partnership that we should have been seeing all season. It's the partnership we will see for the rest of the season. There's no way Mings gets back in. Mings has been vital in keeping clean sheets against Leicester, against Arsenal, against Wolves. He's come up big in all these games where it's mattered. Of course, he's made mistakes, but I think it's just a testament to how high a regard we hold Mings in and how good we know he can be, that it infuriates Villa fans that he obviously makes these mistakes. I just find the reactionary talk about this just totally ridiculous, because if you rewind three games ago, everyone's saying that House is an awful player. And it's the hypocrisy that annoys me. And if anyone's made it this far in the podcast, please do let me know. I'm sure it's just a minority of fans that I'm seeing, and it's potentially a loud one. I just don't think we should be, digging in Ty's grave and jumping in it right now because of everything he's done for the club. And I mean, even his tweet about Anwar, like show a bit of respect. May your apology be as loud as the disrespect, because Ty's going to become a very important player throughout the season. And again, I love Courtney Horse. I have to say this because a lot of people, of course, there's a lot of hype about him right now, rightly so, because he's been doing bits. But like after the Stoke game, he was hounded off social media, just like Anwar. So it's important that I preface this. I really rate Courtney, but of course, Tyrone Mings is the superior defender. That goes without saying.
Well, who plays for
I've just
England?
rambled there, Dan. I'm sorry, but just say something.
No, who plays for England? It's Tyrone Mings.
Yeah,
and that says it, mate. Look, Tyrone Mings makes probably more errors than any of our other two centre backs, but that's because he tries more. He's more expressive on the ball. He's the passer. He's the one that can take men on. He's more technically gifted than the other two centre backs. And so it's natural that, yes, he will make more mistakes, but we can't hold that against him. Think of the player that he was for us and that he's been for Villa on the journey to where we are now. There's not too many players that have been such an integral part of that journey as Tyrone has. I mean, you look at the other players, maybe bar Jack, that have been on that journey with us since the Championship, how they've fluctuated in and out of the side, how they've had dips in performances. Tyrone Mings, for the vast majority of the time, has been exactly what you've always expected him to be. He's very rarely, yes, he's had poor performance. Villa were a very poor side at points last season. Anwar Ghazi has been in and out of the side, and he comes and goes in patches. He blows hot and cold. Tyrone has been there the entire time, and he deserves a bit more respect, I think, from Villa fans, because. And you're right in saying, mate, that I've been frustrated with points at Tyrone and you made a very good point. It's because you know what Tyrone can be. Yeah. I feel like Tyrone sometimes doesn't take the easiest option, and sometimes I think he knows his ability, and so Sometimes you just want to see him do what's easy, do the simple thing. But I don't think he's that kind of player, and there's ultimately nothing wrong with that. But getting back to the game, I think it's
The two defenders were
good.
super, Dan.
They were, mate. They were, and they really anchored what was. And it's good. I think that I just spoke about last season because we have such a better tactical balance this season.
Yeah.
And I think we look so much more complete as a side. And we faced a really interesting dilemma at halftime whereby the side was tiring, but we were in a position whereby we were obliged to go after the game. And you had that position whereby can we push forward and still deal with counterattacks, the likes of Chelsea have and the pace that they have in that front line with the likes of Pulisic and Mount and Hudson-Odoi, despite that lack of fitness, when you've got the likes of Hudson-Odoi playing that architect role, as I was saying, spraying balls, how do you balance that? And I thought we did a brilliant job of that. And that for me was what was most rewarding, was that tactically we found a way to balance these games. We found a way to go toe to toe with these teams and match them, not just on a personnel level. You can look at the stats and every single Villa player on the pitch made at least one successful tackle. 3 players made 3. And it's very rare that you see that. Such a team effort. And that, is one way to look at the game, but it's not just one with commitment. You have to be disciplined and you have to be well put together whilst you're doing it, which is something that I think everyone that watches Villa has doubted Dean Smith's ability to at points, especially last season. I was very vocal on it that I didn't think tactically he was up to it as other managers, but you can see that he's growing as well and he's developing as a manager. And whilst Frank Lampard is no master tactician, their squad in terms of ability on paper is far superior to ours, and so tactically you have to be right up to it to nullify their various threats, and that for me was what we did best today. No one stood out really apart from John McGinn, as you said, Dan, but that's because I'd say overall everyone was good.
Everyone
and
just
that's
played their part,
ultimately
didn't
what
they?
you want to say. It's not that no one stood out because everyone was average. I thought everyone did really well, performed their tasks as well as they needed to. Look, Bertrand's had a lapse in concentration. Although there probably was a lapse in conversation as well, actually. 100%. A little bit more dialogue between Cash and Jerome might have helped. But no, to a man, great performance from the Villa, mate. And Dean Smith deserves a lot of credit too.
This really sets Villa up nicely, Dan, for our next game, Manchester United away on New Year's Day. Of course, at the point of recording this is immediately after the game. They play tomorrow against Tottenham. They play at home, I believe. Obviously, they'll be at home when we play them as well. We will be travelling to Old Trafford. And again, this point sets us up really nicely, Dan. We've gone from a side who is dominating games and not quite getting what we deserve. You just got to look at West Ham and Brighton. But I think the game management now is just so much better. Like, as you say, everyone knew what they needed to do. And literally, just as you were talking there, I saw a tweet from Stan Collymore with it is a graph and it had all the players on it. And the bigger and the bolder the player's name was referenced their influence on the game. I'm sure a lot of you will have seen this by now. And it's about right for what you would expect from tonight, especially from what we were saying. John McGinn, I think, was the biggest and boldest, in all ways, I guess, which is, of course, brilliant. But it sets us up nicely on the road. We didn't get what we deserved from Manchester United last time around, Dan. It was a draw, wasn't it? It was a 2-2 draw. Jack Grealish scored an absolute screamer. Again, we had an Anwan masterclass almost. He set up the Grealish goal, I think, maybe. It was a very good game. But again, I know I said at the top of the podcast, I don't ever expect Villa to go and steamroll teams. And I'm not filled with this oozing optimism, from the bottom of my belly when I wake up and think we're going to absolutely tonk Manchester United. But I think we're going to give them a really good game, Dan. And I think at this point, to call it now, if we could walk away with a point from Old Trafford, that caps off a very successful festive period, in my opinion.
Yeah, and look, I don't, I think a lot of people have been looking at this Man United game and going, that's an opportunity to pick up points. I don't really see that, to be honest with you. I think, you go back to that game where they lost to Arsenal at Old Trafford. Since then, in the league anyway, that's a caveat. They haven't been as good in the Champions League, but they went and beat Everton 3-1. They went then beat West Brom, beat Southampton from behind, beat West Ham, drew with Man City, beat Sheffield United, beat Leeds 6-2. They drew yesterday with Leicester, which is a good result. And tomorrow they play Wolves, which will be a good test to see exactly what we can expect from them. But they're a very good side at the moment in the league. They sit fourth. They've won 8 of their 14 games. They've only lost 3, scored the second most in the league. They're not a side to be taken lightly. And Bruno Fernandes is a player that's going to cause us a lot of problems, as he does every other side. He's a top player. But again, what's for me, mate, is no, I don't particularly expect us to go and win these games, but just not dreading them. It's so nice, isn't it? Just like looking at that game and going, yeah, I'm really excited to see how well we stand up to that. Really, to go and test. Why not go and test ourselves? If we lose, there's no meltdown. It doesn't matter. That's
I mean, there
fine.
probably will be, but
Well, yeah, inevitably, because it's we're dealing with Villa fans, but we've got a very and that today was a great place to go and start. And if we can go and perform similarly against Man United, we then take it back home for 3 consecutive games, one in the FA Cup, then against Spurs and Everton. It just sets us up for a real nice game. But no, I think tonight anyway, our last game of 2020, and what a year it's been to be a Villa fan, and I think it's ended on a real high, mate.
absolutely. And, just to finally touch on something from Manchester United, no side in the league has won more points since January. Only Liverpool, sorry, has earned more points in the league since January than Manchester United, who are second. And that speaks to the testament of how good Bruno Fernandes has been since they've joined. It's going to be very difficult because obviously you've got to account for the penalty that Manchester United are going to get in this game. That will obviously set Villa a goal back, which is going to be an uphill battle, but I'm sure Dean Smith and Aston Villa will be able to cope with that. I mean, what a year it has been, Dan. Of course, the last game we were all at together was the League Cup final, which we finished. I mean, we played in the League Cup final this year, Dan. We've flirted with relegation. We've stayed up on the last day. Jack Grealish has been capped for England. We're making a charge up the table. European football could happen, and what a ride it's been. And of course, it has been a dreadful year, just 2020 in general. So we've got to kind of take these positives as they come. Hopefully they can brighten up your day. And just on, a personal note and on a note on the podcast, 2020 has been a brilliant year for us as well, Dan. We've overseen some,
the best yet for sure.
Yeah, I mean, unprecedented growth. We'd like to thank every single one of you who has subscribed, who's watched the videos, who's commented, who's liked, who's disliked, who's given us constructive criticism, who's just outright said we're stupid. We appreciate all of you. We really do. And this may be the last podcast of the year. So we hope you all have a safe new year. We hope you enjoy this win as much as you can. Draw, sorry. Wow. See, I'm celebrating it as if it's a win. That's it. That's 2020, man.
That says enough.
Literally. But, indulge in this result. It's a massive one to cap off a really busy December. But, of course, we've got a really difficult run of fixtures, as Dan has just alluded to there. So hopefully, we can continue this one throughout the sort of second half of the season, second 2/3 of the season. But Dan, as always, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, mate. And if any of you guys did watch all the way through, let us know in the comments down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Say comment below if you watched all the way, and let us know who you thought your man of the match was. I'd be interested to hear. I think it was John McGinn. Dan thinks it was John McGinn. Let us know who you think in the comments. And if you haven't, subscribe, because we're very close to hitting 3,500 subscribers, which would be absolutely amazing to cap off the year. That would be amazing if you would subscribe. If you're listening to this and you're not subscribed, and if you haven't already, check out the Milot Shitska and Josh King transfer rumor mill episode. And just to address one of the comments, no, we're not fueling the rumors. We're not doing Birmingham Mail or whatever you want to say. We're just looking at these players that we've been linked with. We're not making the links here and just assessing how they'd fit in. So yeah, if you like the sound of that, go check that out on the channel. But yeah, as I said, if you enjoyed, comment your thoughts below and subscribe for more. Up the Villa.